Ever imagine, like, diving deep into Bitcoin and finding out it might be connected to some global criminal mastermind?
It's a wild thought, right?
Yeah. Today, we're exploring this theory that Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin, was actually, get this, a guy named Paul Le Roux, a software developer, but also apparently a big-time criminal.
Yeah, the guy was basically running a huge criminal network.
And we're looking at whether he could be the mysterious Satoshi. So, to kick things off, who exactly was Paul Le Roux? What made him so notorious?
Well, Le Roux was a software whiz, especially good at cryptography, the stuff that makes secure communication possible, creating and breaking codes, that kind of thing.
So, like the foundation of how Bitcoin works.
Exactly. He was deep into that world way back in the early days of the internet.
Got it. But then how does a software guy end up as a global criminal mastermind?
Yeah, that's the crazy part. Le Roux went from code to crime, building this massive network involved in everything shady you can think of. Drugs, weapons, you name it.
A real underworld empire.
Oh yeah, spanning multiple continents. And to manage all that, he needed a way to move money around, secretly and quickly without anyone noticing.
Which is where Bitcoin comes in, right?
See, that's what makes this theory so interesting. Bitcoin is all about secure, anonymous transactions outside the control of governments and banks.
A perfect tool for a criminal mastermind, basically.
It's like it was tailor-made for his needs. And then there's the timing of it all. Satoshi Nakamoto, poof, disappears from the Bitcoin scene right around the time Le Roux gets arrested.
Wow, that's a pretty big coincidence.
hmm
So Le Roux gets arrested and has to abandon his Bitcoin project.
It's possible. Maybe he had to go dark to protect himself, avoid exposing his whole operation. It could explain why Satoshi vanished and why Bitcoin was kind of left to fend for itself in those early days.
It all adds up. And then there's that whole thing with Le Roux's ID. Wasn't there something strange about his name on an official document?
Right. Someone leaked a screenshot of his Republic of Congo ID online, the name on it, Paul Salachi Calder Le Roux.
Salachi. It's almost like a slight misspelling of Satoshi.
Almost too close to be a coincidence. But in the spirit of fairness, we got to consider the other side of the argument too, right?
Oh, of course. What do the skeptics say?
Well, if you look at Satoshi's writings, there's a big emphasis on libertarian ideals. Individual freedom, limited government, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I've read some of that stuff. Very anti-establishment.
Exactly. And those ideas, while not necessarily criminal, don't really scream criminal mastermind either.
True, it's hard to picture someone running a global criminal enterprise being super passionate about individual liberty at the same time. But couldn't that just be a cover? Like a way to throw people off his scent?
Yeah, some people argue that Le Roux was intentionally pushing those libertarian views to distract from his criminal activities. It's a possibility.
It's a good strategy. And speaking of strategy, Bitcoin is designed to be decentralized, right? Anyone can contribute to it. Didn't that go against how Le Roux typically operated? Didn't he like to be in control?
He did. So that's another point that makes people skeptical. If Le Roux created Bitcoin, wouldn't he want more control over it? Especially if he was using it for his criminal activities.
Yeah, why make it open for everyone to tinker with?
Right. It's almost like he's making it harder for himself. But then again, maybe he saw the decentralized, open source nature of Bitcoin as like another layer of camouflage. By making it seem like a community project, he's further distancing himself from it, even though he's the one pulling the strings behind the scenes.
Pretty clever, if that's what he did. So we've got some compelling evidence, but it looks like the jury's still out on whether Satoshi Nakamoto was actually a criminal mastermind. What do you think? What are your final thoughts for our listeners?
Well, I think this story is a perfect example of how innovation and intention are two separate things. Amazing ideas can come from anywhere, and sometimes the line between brilliance and criminal intent can be blurry.
It's a reminder that there's often more to the story than meets the eye, and it's definitely something to think about. Maybe someday the truth about Satoshi will come out.
Right.
Or maybe it'll stay a mystery forever, adding to the legend of Bitcoin.
Exactly. It just makes you wonder, doesn't it? Who was Satoshi, and what were they really trying to achieve?
Fascinating stuff. It's been a pleasure diving deep into this with you.
Likewise. Until next time.
And to all our listeners, stay curious.